Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesdays with Tildy. I'm really excited for our show today we are entitling it, How to Make Your Dream Happen. It's an interview with Ingrid Vanderveldt, who I met earlier this year and just really admire the work that she's doing with women. And so we'll get to that interview here in a couple of seconds. But first, I want to really thank all of you for joining us and for your continued support and encouragement with the work that we're doing, not only with Tuesdays with Tildy, but with all the other work that we're doing as well. And I want to invite you to become even more involved with our community by joining our Patreon page. So, or becoming a patron on our Patreon page. And you can check us out there and see all the ways that you can actually support us by giving anywhere from $1 all the way up to $100. And what that money actually goes to is not only to just keeping these Tuesdays with Tildy going, but also to help us reach even more people, more women around the world by being able to transcribe them in different languages. So one of the goals that we have is, first of all, to be able to translate them into English for people so that people with hearing disabilities will be able to receive all the content that we're putting out. Also, the second goal is to translate them into Spanish and to reach even more women around the world, and then continue to reach out to even more women by translating them into other languages. So your donations will help us to do that and to reach as many people as possible. If you want to be part of that, we welcome your support. So again, thank you for joining us. And as always, you are welcome to ask any questions to our guests and to myself if you have any. During the interview, Dave will be monitoring to find out what it is that you want to know. And also, if we mention resources and you know of other resources that are available, please put those in the comments as well and share them with our audience. Now, you can do this whether you're watching live with us or whether you're watching on demand. So all we want is for you to get involved and share the wealth. All right. Well, with that, Ingrid, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hi, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me, Tildy. It's so awesome to see you again. And as I'm looking over here, I'm tweeting out right now to say, come join us.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. Really appreciate it. Now, just to tell people a little bit about who Ingrid is. I know I don't have your bio in front of me, so I'm going to shoot from the hip here, Ingrid, just from memory, because I know that you've built and sold a couple of companies, and then you were the entrepreneur in residence for Dell, and you did that for several years, and you helped them actually build the Dell Women Entrepreneur Network. That's now a global organization for Dell. You also helped to start was it $100 million fund? Is that correct, Ingrid?
It is. Yeah, it was a $100 million fund. It became a $250 million fund. So yes, and actually the Dell Women Entrepreneur Network, they had an amazing woman named JJ Davis at Dell, who's one of the leaders there in communications, started what's called DWEN. And it was that initiative that, perked up my eyes and ears to see what is this amazing Fortune 50 company trying to do with women. This is now many years ago. And so got to play a really fun role with that. So yes,
that's awesome. And now and that was a perfect job really to have to help you create what is now Empowering 1 Billion Women for 2020, right?
For sure. It's actually the vision of Empowering 1 Billion Women by 2020 is something that I, if you want to say, received back in the end of 2010, beginning of 2011 or so. And as you and I were talking about in the break here, it can sometimes be so overwhelming and scary to have a vision or be called to do something like this, just like you're doing with Womanars. I'm sure there are days where you're like, how am I going to make all this stuff happen? Yeah. And for me, when I heard Empowering 1 Billion Women by 2020, when I got over the initial shock of that and how would you make something like that happen, it was clear to me that the only way that we would ever have the potential to really reach out and connect with 1 billion women was going to be through technology. And I needed a global technology partner. So I went to Dell, had a conversation with them, and that led to me being the entrepreneur in residence there for 3 years, where that experience helped me really learn and build the foundation on how do you build at this scale on a global basis using technology to do that. And so I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for that experience at Dell, and they will always be part of my family. So they're just great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think one of the things that I remember you mentioning a couple of times now that I've heard you speak is during that time when you were building that $100 million fund and going back to the doubts and fears, right, that we face, that not many women, if any women at all, actually applied for any of those funds. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. So actually what happened, because the $100 million and then the $250 million fund at Dell was wildly successful. It was fantastic. And when I finished with Dell, I took some time off and just was resting before I started building out Empowering a Billion Women by 2020, its own platform. And one of the things that I wanted to, again, make available to women was financing. And so I teamed up with Dell and a few others and created another $100 million debt fund, which we launched in May of 2015. And that's one of those experiences that on the one hand, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. On the other hand, you're like, oh my gosh, but it was like this totally defining moment for the company, because when we launched that fund, that was a fund built by and for women, and not a single woman applied. The men applied, the women did not apply. But what the women did buy was we had, and by we, at that time, it was myself and two other people, had put up services. And we said, we called it business in a box services. And we essentially said, if you would like help building your company, and really did that as a way to provide some help to apply into the fund. And we just sold the pants off that. We weren't scheduled, or we weren't really set up to scale to serve women at that rate. So we've now, that really, again, created this just turning point for the company, because I realized then that for us to effectively service women around the globe, that we can't only make resources available to women, we can't aggregate already existing resources. We had to create a complete success system, if you will, that allows women to come in and learn the know-how and get the guidance and the financial literacy and all those things that I wish I would have always had. I call it the always-on mentor, as they start, grow, and scale their ventures. And that's what we've done for the past year and a half. So it's been quite a journey, tons of learning, and, just amazing. But lots of scary days and lots of amazing ones too.
Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit, because I want to know why empowering a billion women by 2020? I mean, why that huge number, and by 2020? How did you come up with the idea? And, what have you gone through, let's say in the last 20 years, right? Because all of us have this story, this amazing story usually. At least I believe that every one of us has an amazing story to tell about how those experiences have actually led us to exactly where we are today. So tell people a little bit about that journey for you and how you came up with this just grand idea.
Yeah, sometimes, I think it helps explain a lot when I share that I grew up thinking I'd be a missionary. And as I got older and realized that, I understood how to build things, and I could be a pretty effective capitalist. I had some companies that did well, some that did not, but realized that I was going to be this missionary of a different kind. And it was in meditation that the, concept for empowering a billion women by 2020, it was that specific, I heard it, and I can't deny it. And trust me, I have days where I'm like, ugh, why? I really, we were joking about that. I could go and work inside a global corporation as an executive, or, do something that, is far more secure, and you know exactly how to make things happen. But I can't, because this is what I was asked to do. And this is really, I made a commitment as I went into meditation, and as I've dedicated my entire life to really be in service and really authentically be in service to women around the globe. And I think a lot of that absolutely comes from the experiences that I've had over the past 20, over the past 40 years. I grew up facing a lot of challenges. I mean, they thought I was learning disabled. It turned out I had hearing problems that when we fixed those, I was able to excel. I can't even tell you, I can't even count on both hands how many times I was told I couldn't accomplish something for you name the reason. First time I tried to raise money, I was told I don't look like, sound like, talk like, or act like any of the CEOs that the investors are used to funding. And the advisor that told me that said, really, if I was going to do you a favor, I'd tell you to just pack it up and try to get yourself a job before it's too late. I was told in architecture school when I was there at 3 a.m, which was, a common occurrence for architecture students. My professor happened to come in and he asked me, why are you here? Why are you doing this? And he said, it's really unfair that you are taking up a space in this classroom because really your job, I mean, I'm being for real when I say this, but your job is you're going to get married and then you're going to have children and, you need to take care of those kids as a mom. And it's interesting because my husband and I, we actually don't have children of our own. We love kids. But I think, all of these things put together, being broken homeless, losing everything that I've earned to make a dream happen, realizing how do you find amazing people who are authentically committed to the same vision versus, people that you have to kind of go past the veil, if you will, to find the right people to surround yourself with who are authentically there to help. And in this case, serve women around the globe. I think just all these experiences have led to where I am today. And I wake up every day and think, thank God I've been asked to do something that allows me to reach, thousands, millions of people around the globe and eventually a billion women. And there's a lot of responsibility with that, an opportunity with that. But I do keep telling myself, if I can make the difference in the life of one woman today, help ease her path, help her get where she wants to go, that fuels my soul like there's no tomorrow. I can't even tell you. So just is.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And ever since I started Womanars, that was my thing. If I can help one person, it's made it all worth it. And, to get the emails that I receive or the private messages, I mean, for me, that's fuel for the fire, right? Is just to keep me motivated and just knowing that we are making a difference somehow in other people's lives, which is worth, more gold, right? More than gold. So I know that's a primary motivator for me as well. So what are some of the things, because you and I were talking a little bit before we got started, what were some of the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome with, in building Empowering a Billion Women by 2020? Because I can say for myself, I mean, I didn't have any, when I got the vision for Womanars, I didn't have any experience in video production. I didn't have a network of women. I had my close friends who were professionals, but I didn't have a network. And so for me, it was a combination of things, having the tenacity and to go out there and try something different. But also I think my faith played a huge part in that, and just allowing, and being open to anything that God brought my way, and to have those doors open that needed to be opened. And to see that over the years has really been amazing. So what were some of the biggest obstacles that you faced along the way?
Well, and thank you for the question. It's such a great question. And I just want to pause for a moment, though, and really honor what you just said here, because you are living proof that anything is possible. You know, you didn't have the experience to do what you're doing now. And I think when an idea comes to you through inspiration in whatever way, I mean, whether it's something that, you know, sort of bubbling up inside you, or it's like a burst of lightning that just you're inspired, but you take immediate action to take the next step. And I think that whether people believe in a God or believe in a higher power, whatever that is, there is so much strength in trusting and having faith that when you are inspired from a different place, you can't explain it. You can't explain Womanars, like why was it exactly that, and why was this given to somebody like you who didn't have the experience, and what is this all about? But you took immediate action. And I think that is so critically important, because taking that very next step, I always think of what Joe Eisenhart, the SVP of Northwestern Mutual, said to me when she was like, how are you doing this? Like, how do you eat an elephant? And she said, well, you know, actually, I guess you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that is so true for women who are thinking about starting, growing, or scaling their business. Just take that next step. Because I would say in my own journey, the biggest thing that I suffer from, and hopefully, you know, you all can relate to this, is my own self-doubt. You know, there are very few women that I've met out there. And I'm thinking of this one woman in particular, Angelica Fuentes from Mexico, who's amazing. And we were talking to her about, you know, her confidence or fear. And she said, I actually never am scared. I just know I'm going to do it. I don't have that. I get really, really scared someday, and I have my own self-doubt. And I think that's actually the biggest challenge to overcome. And so the strategies that I use are the following. So number one, my faith is hugely important. I rely on that. I don't start a single day without going into meditation. Number two, the more and more public I become, the smaller my circle of people I keep very, very close is. And these are people that I absolutely trust and I know share the same sort of commitment to this authentic calling as I do. The third thing is, you know, where I widen the net a little bit is I really work hard to surround myself with other leaders who are, again, equally as committed to the vision. And then around that is really the support system, the sisterhood, and part of what we love doing at Empowering a Billion Women. I mean, it's so fun to look at the Facebook page, 375,000 people on it, women that are interacting with each other and supporting each other, you know, as they build their ventures. So those are some of the things that I do. And I do take time to just rest, work out. I love working out. I read a lot. I journal a lot. I love art. And I really try to take some of that time to force my mind to do some creative things to get that sense of relief.
And, you know, I think one of the things that also stumps a lot of women that might be thinking about starting a new business is the business plan. Right?
Yeah.
So, because that's, I know it stumped me for a while. And finally I read, Rework, the book Rework. And that just totally transformed my mentality about a business plan. And I thought, I just need to do this. I just need to start and then, you know, do a business plan when I have more clarity on how to do that. But for me, it was mainly just getting started. What would you recommend? What's your thought process for women that are thinking about starting something new? And when is a business plan the way to go? And when is it, you know, something that can be put off for a little while?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking on that. I mean, this is, gosh, you queued that one up for me. So thank you. Because first of all, I'd say, I mean, you know, joining and being part of something like Womanars is just so fantastic. You know, you get to learn from the experts you're bringing on the show and from you and having this community. You were just talking about your event that you're going to have in Dallas, which is awesome. You know, that's a wonderful way to connect with other like-minded thinkers. But what you're saying specifically, Tildy, when I was approaching, how do we build a scalable system, a success system to support women wherever they are at and help them grow, we say 11x. So it's you plus support to get you 11 times where you are today to where you want to go. And it really does come down to building a plan and having a financial structure around that, which is for many years I was avoiding that. I was like, the money's going to take care of itself. But the reality of it is that if you've got an idea and you've got a concept, but it doesn't exist within a framework that you've kept for yourself and a financial plan, it's almost like playing a soccer game for those sports fans out there. It's like playing a game. If you don't have the rules of the game, whether you set them yourself or somebody else has set them, you don't know when you've kicked a ball out of bounds. You don't know when you've scored a goal. You don't know if, you're losing 3 out of 4 games. You don't know these things, and you can't look at what's going on and say, why is this not working? Where do I need to pivot or adjust? So the plan is really an empowering tool to give you a sanity check on where you are and where you're wanting to go. What I would say, I'm a huge fan of any idea at all. Again, an idea without a plan is a hobby or an art project. It really is. You got to have the plan if you want to turn it into something that allows you to follow what you're passionate about and make money doing it as well. What I would suggest is for first-time entrepreneurs who are trying to test the waters, if you will, a critical thing to do is just prove that something Guy Kawasaki made famous, who created Garage.com, Garage Ventures, and he always said, prove that the dogs will eat the dog food. Like, show that somebody is going to want what you have. Right. So don't spend tons of time trying to plan all this stuff out before you validate it. Do some market testing and see that people are saying, oh, Tildy, Womanars would be so amazing for me. And once you have some of that feedback, then you can take it and you can develop a very simple plan. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, but make sure that it's a plan that really does map out over the next month, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and it's got some financials in there so that you can really track, how am I doing or how am I not doing towards my plan, and where do I need to pivot?
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that we found out with one of our surveys that we did is one of the areas that women feel the least confident in is their finances, whether it's business or in, their personal or business finances. And, being a part of the Money School program was through the EBSW platform for me was just huge. Because I knew I had been a financial advisor at 19, right? So I knew how to manage, and I know how to manage my personal finances. But as far as business finances, that's a whole different story. And I think a lot of times the fear of just looking at your financials or maybe asking a question about a balance sheet or something as simple as a balance sheet or, how to do those projections that everybody talks about, can be a little overwhelming for people who don't have that sort of experience. What is your advice for people like that who have been in business, have been running a business, but now are trying to scale it? What are some things that they need to be looking at in those, how can financial literacy play a positive part in them growing their business?
Yeah, well, what I would say about that, so first of all, and that's so, awesome. I loved seeing you go through Money School. That was created by Sharon Lechter, who is the #1 financial literacy educator in the U.S. And Sharon and Angela Totman and I met years ago while I was the entrepreneur in residence for Dell, and just knew then I really wanted to work with her. And as I was building out EBSW, and we had the experience of, women weren't applying for the fund, and we needed to build a system there, I wanted to find the best. And I went and talked with Sharon and asked her to become a partner and really team up on this vision of reaching 1 billion women around the globe. And one of the ways that she wants to do that is, she's created all kinds of content and tools, learning tools, financial literacy tools that are available for women all over the globe. Money School is one of them. So she created Money School for EBSW. And what is so fun about that is there are women in there who, like you said, aren't confident around their financials at all. And then you have people like Steve Felice, who is the president of Dell, who I worked with side by side, who's an investor in EBW. I will never forget Steve saying, I got into money school and I did the upfront assessment. And he said, I couldn't believe it. I got like 25 out of 35 questions right. And he said, I can't believe I even missed any, because the guy is financially brilliant.
Yeah.
And it was like, you don't even realize there are things. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I was getting a little feedback there. If our friend Dave can hear.
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Okay, good. So it's sorry, I'm getting that feedback. It's just fun to see that there are people, men and women, at all different skill sets that are finding enormous value in this program. And again, thank you so much for bringing that up, because it's one of the things that, especially in 2017, we're really excited to bring out in a much bigger way, so that we can open it up to more women and men to participate in that school. So it's amazing. Yeah. What I would say about, how can you use financials to sort of scale your business? EBW is a perfect example of that. And by that, I mean, I think I've heard in the past, people think that when you've got a Sharon Lechter or an Ingrid Vanderveldt who ran $100 million, $250 million fund, like financing and the financials, like everything's always smooth. It's just, we've got a lot of experience. It's, of course we're going to reach 1 billion women. It's all going to be smooth most of the time. And that is far from the truth. I think for all of us, you can never project how long it's going to take for people to start buying what parts of your products. You can never expect or plan how long exactly it's going to take to raise your investment financing. And so what I would say, I mean, right before this call, I was sitting and I've just spent the past couple of hours with our finance director, and we were looking at the financials of the business and saying, okay, based on the money that we have in the bank today, what does that enable us to do over what period of time? And how can we restructure things in a way that we can really be effective with that money and allow us to grow, but grow to profitability where we don't necessarily need to bring in any more investment capital? And that conversation is happening because it's taken a lot longer to pull in all the investment financing that we originally expected. So I think, but without that plan, without that structure, without the business plan, we wouldn't be able to say, is this what we expected? Is this not what we expected? Is the timing right? Is it not? And adjust accordingly so that you can scale, even if it means you got to make pivots to your business so you can do it in a way that's profitable.
So give people a glimpse as to what you're doing now with EBW 2020. I know that you've started different chapters where people can connect locally with those local chapters. So talk a little bit about where that idea came from and how you see it growing in the future.
Yeah, well, sorry, I'm getting that feedback again. Sorry, but
I don't know where it's coming from. Dave, fix it.
Do you hear it on your
No, we don't hear anything.
Okay, good. Okay, it's gone. Thank you, Dave. So what EBW is doing now, to answer that question, so EBW is a movement, but it's also something that going into it, I was just saying to somebody last night, there was never, ever the intention that EBW would be a nonprofit. We wanted to create a for-profit enterprise that could create a super solid, robust business that would provide the money to take care of, certainly the organization, but allow us to be able to have the money we want to be able to reach those billion women through the development of mobile devices, providing financial literacy and entrepreneurial education. We really wanted to be self-sufficient in that way. And so what the company has done was we created what we call the One Complete system that has 3 steps to it. Number 1 is what we call our One Club membership, which is basically your masterminds. It has 2 learning tracks in it. It has the sole proprietor, which is more like what we're doing here. How do you overcome doubt? How do you especially when you're on your own or you feel like you're on your own, even if you have a large organization. How do you mentally prepare to stand up and own your fullest worth? And then the second learning track is what we call Inside the Boardroom, which is where we provide the how-to skill sets to sell your ideas, to get into the boardroom. What actually happens in those conversations? How do you take your idea and scale it? So that's the first step, is that one club membership. And then step number 2 is the financial software. So this is, now you're learning how to start, grow, and scale and make money. The financial software says this is how you secure, protect, and grow your money. And then the third step is all of the coaching that goes along with that, if that's something that women want, to be able to support them and be that always-on mentor as they're starting, growing, and scaling their ventures. And then something like Money School is a specialized education program that, for those that really want to take their financial knowledge to the next level, it's that amazing, fun program where you learn so much. What we learned over this past year is women want to come together in person. You know, they connect online, but they want to come together in person. And so one of our supporters, who's been amazing, and she came on as the Chief Marketing Officer, Lisa Copeland, it was her idea to open chapters. And that was just so neat, because it was one of those things where we're like, that's a really interesting idea. What would that look like? And we built out a plan and built out a model. And before we knew it, you know, we had 30 chapters on the books in 90 days to open. And I think the goal was 30 in a year, something like that. So the chapters have started to open. By the end of this year, we will have opened in 7 cities. Tomorrow I go into Syracuse. And then I believe it's next week, Dayton, Ohio opens. And it is this way that women can come together once a month, led by a vetted leadership team that has applied to open up a chapter. And those leaders they follow the system that we've put in place. So they build off the learnings that we're teaching in our online communities. They're bringing speakers in, but they're also there to provide support and mentorship, and ideally financial services guidance too, to the women that are coming into that chapter. So it's that one anchor point, if you will. Every month now, women can go into those chapters and connect with other women. And in places where there are not chapters, we're opening virtual chapters. So it's still an online community, but it's a bit more robust than just the general, 375,000 people in the Facebook community type thing.
So what makes it different? And I know I get this question a lot, so I have to ask you. What makes it different than other organizations that are already in place that have local chapters? What sets EBW apart from organizations that are already within a city, that women are already connected to?
Yeah, and that's a great question too, because one of the things that we have always said is that EBW, we're not here to solve challenges that have already been solved. We want to complement what's already out there. And a big thing for us was we saw the stats that, 74% of these businesses are failing due to lack of financial literacy. 90% of why women don't start, grow, or scale a business is because lack of confidence. But then the real kicker and a real differentiator for us is 80% of women want to be mentored by other women. The challenge is because historically, it's always been the amazing guys who are the leaders, the CEOs, the politicians, the whatever. There are so few women that have actually gone over the $1 million mark. It's less than 2%. There are less than 4% of women have ever raised venture capital. There are less than 14% who have ever sat on boards. These are things that I and our leadership team have all done. And we literally sat down and said, how do we take this knowledge and wrap it up and scale it into something where we can serve, personalize, and customize the service to women, meet them where they're at, but really pay it forward with this knowledge in a way that we wish we would have had. So it's really that knowledge, that financial literacy core wrapped in that entrepreneurial education, but being built by people who have been there and done that with an authentic heart to really pay it forward to other women.
So you mentioned mentorship, and that's one of the last things that I want to cover because I know your time is limited. But how important is it, do you think, to actually have a mentor and how to approach a mentor And who is your mentor?
That's great. I always say, if there's one piece of advice that I will, when people say, what is the one thing that you would do? And, to support yourself as you're building in your career. And that one thing I would do is find a mentor. My mentors have been game changers for me. I mean, they have made the difference between, being where I was at, which was, thinking and dreaming about building a business, to having built very successful companies, having overcome enormous challenges, being able to navigate some pretty sharky waters at times when you feel like you're all alone. And then you sit with an exceptional mentor that says, you know what, that happened to me too. And here's what I would recommend based on where you're at, and da-da-da-da. And they can help guide you. It is so super valuable to have that. What I suggest in terms of finding a mentor, and this is important because I think a lot of, especially women, will think, let me go have coffee with people. Let me go and get some advice. Let me see if somebody will be my mentor. Maybe it's somebody who, that certainly you've admired for whatever reason or another. My recommendation is find the person who has actually done what you want to do. And it's a person that you probably don't think you would ever have a shot at getting as a mentor because they're so darn busy and they're so off doing their own thing. And the thing that I would recommend to help secure an opportunity to have that person be your mentor is to remember that people who are wildly successful, people who have made all the money you can imagine or who are so busy, these are people who don't have to, in many cases, work a day in their life. They show up every day because they've been called on their own mission to be in service and make a difference in some way. And one of the ways that they make that difference is in doing what we do here at EBW and paying it forward, is they pay it forward. It's just a lot of people don't ever ask. But the important thing to remember when you're approaching somebody like that to be your mentor is do your homework and really understand what drives this person. Because what probably looks like, let me give you an example. Howard Schultz, who runs Starbucks. Perfect example. You could look at Howard Schultz and be like, oh, Howard Schultz is really successful, entrepreneur. He actually took over the coffee place, made Starbucks what it is today. But, he's this really successful business guy. But if you dig just a little bit deeper, what he really cares about is, of course, his family, as most of us do. But he's an avid mountain biker. So the key is when you're going to secure a meeting with a potential mentor, do your homework to find out what's really important to them and what is it that you have in your bag of opportunities, if you will, that can add value to them. Do you know something about mountain biking? Do you have a friend that maybe is a coach in mountain biking? Do you have something that's out of the box thinking that can really show this person that you care about their time, care about their interest, and be in service to them? How can you serve them? And when you do that, you instantly create a connection of where now they're adding value back to you. They're spending time with you. You ask them questions. And out of that, you can build a mentoring relationship. So that is what I would recommend. And don't be afraid to ask. Because again, like I said, most of these people never get asked because so many of us don't believe that we can. But if you just remember, you giving them the gift to spend some time with you in a way that allows them to pay it forward is what most of these people are actually looking for. So my mentors, my parents were my mentors. When I was building my first companies, I wanted to be female version of Michael Dell. I mean, I'm going to put it out there. That's what I was so inspired. This guy's building this multi-billion-dollar company and transforming technology in the world out of the trunk of his car in his dorm room. And I was like, well, we went to the same school and I know tech and, wouldn't this be so neat? And I would have loved for Michael to be my mentor, but he was kind of busy at the time. And I looked at who was his mentor. And that was a guy named George Kosmetsky. And George Kosmetsky mentored me for many years before he passed away. And then when he passed away, his very best friend, who was a guy named Red McCombs, who created Clear Channel Communications. You met him at Billionaire Weekend for Women last year. he called and knew that I was the mentee of Dr. K, and he said, I'd like to take you on. And that's been quite a ride. I mean, I've learned a ton from him, things that I've been so happy to learn, and then, really tough love as well. Yeah. And that's what these people do for you. So yeah. Amazing.
And I want to say that a lot of times, I know for me in my younger years, the best mentors I had were men. And I think it really helped me to not be timid when I am in a room full of men, to be able to know that I can hold myself, in my authenticity. And so I think women shouldn't shy away from men as being mentors, don't you? I think that adds something different to that mentorship and that ability to be able to walk into a room with more confidence.
Tilly, thank you for saying that, because I couldn't agree more. And, one of the things, I'll talk more publicly about this because it's the first time I'm saying it, just happened yesterday. But I just haven't even fully processed this yet. And, it's interesting because I think a couple things. So one, we learn so much from the guys. The guys are the ones who have historically been there, and they're excited when we show up. They want us to be there. They want to interact with us. They know that when, MIT did a study just a couple years ago. Before that, there was no data on this, by the way, but they did a study a couple years ago about the difference between, a male-only executive team versus a women and man with some diversity, as an executive team. And the revenue increase was about 41%. And so there is real economic value as well in providing these combined teams. But what I would also say to that, Tildy, as well, is not only showing up in confidence with the men, but please, for the women, and I'm seeing this in spades, there's something called the queen bee mentality, and that you can Google, and it's all over the place, and this is about women who have made it and who think, oh my gosh, I've made it into the boardroom and there's not enough room for all of us. And I had last year, actually a billionaire weekend for women, somebody said to me, I think a lot of market fascination around empowering a billion women is that there's no way you can put strong women together and actually have it work. And I won't say that it hasn't been, easy or smooth the whole time. It's not, there are challenges there. But yesterday, someone said something to me that, like I said, I haven't even fully processed. And this person said to me, because we were talking about investors, and he said, Ivy, please don't waste your time working with women investors. And I literally just looked at him and my mouth must have hit the floor. And he said, please don't do it. And he said, as a lifelong investor, he goes, I know the intention's good, and I know, and I'm an investor, I know that there are amazing women investors out there. And he said, but it brings drama to the table. It brings so much added stuff into an organization. And he goes, if you just work with the guys, and he said, the guys, they get it. They get what you're doing. They want to help, they're going to look at the opportunity. They see where you're going, and it's just easier. And like I said, I'm still processing this, because I was like, Tildy, how are we ever going to break through and make that change for women across the globe if we're not there, being willing to show up with confidence in a room full of guys, which now you have the secret weapon. They're waiting for us to show up anyway. So just have at it, have fun. But how important it is for us to keep doing the work that we're doing, but also to be aware that, women, as we elevate, there's plenty of room for all of us, and pay it forward, be there, support other women is so critically important.
Right. And be cognizant of the perception that you're giving other people, obviously. If this gentleman is thinking the way that he's thinking, it's obviously for several reasons. So I think it's a call to women who are investors to really evaluate the perception that they're putting out there for people.
That's, and that would be probably a series of really great interviews on Womanars is to hear from them. I've got my own experience on that as well. And there is a lot to learn there. Yeah. And I think, I would say part of this sort of global shift that we're seeing with more women coming in as leaders and entrepreneurs and all that, I mean, the game is changing. It's never going to be the same, and women do things differently, and that's part of the beauty of it. But I also think, to your point, just be conscious of what, the message that we're putting across and the way that we support other women. Because that, I like I said, I'm still a little dumbfounded by it, not quite sure how to respond to that. But it's important to peel back that onion and understand why. Right. Because we need more women investing in women.
And obviously this is only one person's perception, right? And obviously our individual experiences create those perceptions. So that's not to say that that's the case for all men and male investors in the way that they perceive women investors. But that's an interesting question. I'm actually going to interview the founder of SheEO World, who...
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so they are a community of women investors.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and so it'll be an interesting question to kind of pose to her here in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure if it's in January or in December when we're interviewing her, but that'll be a really interesting question to pose to her and to see why they found a need to actually create a women investors only community for women entrepreneurs.
Natalia Oberti, I think is how you say her name, from Pipeline Fellows would be fantastic. Amy Millman from Springboard Enterprises would be fantastic. I mean, these are women who have committed their lives to encouraging other women to invest in women, and it would be great to hear from them. That would be a neat show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the idea.
Oh, well, you asked the question, so thank you for opening that up, because now I'm like, yay, Tildy, shine a light on this and have a conversation about it and, help us all understand a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ingrid. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to add? Please tell people how they can get a hold of you and become a part of what you're doing before we end the interview.
Thank you. Thank you. I would really invite everyone to try EBW, try that complete success system out for free. It is free for 30 days. You can go there. There's a link right on EBW2020.com. You can sign up and, again, start for free and just experience what you learn and experience the community. And if it's of value to you in the way that we have all really kind of committed ourselves to bring that value to you, then we are excited to have you stay and grow with us. And on there as well, you can see where the chapters are opening. If you're interested in starting a chapter, you can connect with us there, join the Facebook page. So there are all kinds of things that are happening year round. Money School's on there. You can check that out as well. And like I said, just come. It's open for a limited time. So we just come in there and join the membership. Like I said, free, and would love to see you all there. And Tildy, thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And just to let everybody know, I am a member of Inside the Boardroom and a member of the EBW 2020 community, and could not be a bigger advocate for what Ingrid and her team are doing around the world, and couldn't be prouder. I mean, the people that I've met within the community are just the most amazing women, so, and have helped to support me and encourage me. A lot of them have been on this show, Ingrid, and being part of the Womanars community as well. So thank you for all that you're doing and for helping to promote women entrepreneurs and just empowering us, and equipping us to do the work that we're called to do as well.
Thank you, Tildy, and really for all you're doing. And I just love seeing you here. It's so fun to be on your show, and I'm honored, and thank you very much. And for Dave there in the background who's working everything.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Ingrid, for joining us. Just want to remind you that if you like what you're seeing, don't keep us a secret. Be sure and share it with your friends and help us spread the word about the good work that we're doing here. Also, a reminder, if you want to become more involved with our community, follow us on Patreon. That's patreon.com, patreon.com/Womanars. And again, help us to put our Tuesdays with Tildy shows in other countries in different languages by helping us transcribe that by giving to our Patreon page and supporting us there. So I look forward to next time. And next week, we're going to be interviewing, I can't remember who it is, but there will be another Tuesdays with Tildy, I promise.
That's when you know you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God, who's next? So thanks, everybody. Have a great Tuesday. We'll see you next time.